that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences.
Is this happening? Is this like your greatest fear? Like so many of the fears are made up. They're phantom fears. They're ghosts. It's like, do you think teachers walk up to kids and just stare them in the eyes the whole time? Like, you are in the wrong body. It's like, wait, what does that mean? You are not he, him. You are now they, them. I am they, them. Yes, indoctrination hath begun. And then all the kids rise up and they're like, we are now trans. And they're like, the agenda has begun. Like, the Wokening. Behold the great Wokening. Like, what are you talking about? I don't know if you've talked about this today, but Republicans are gearing up for a national ban on trans people in 2024. Trump released a video on his first platform's position. I have not. By the way, if you haven't already, one thing that I would love for you to do in your spare time, and I'm saying this to everyone, but I'm also going to say to fellow cis people, watch Jesse Gender's new video on the third episode of The Last of Us. Obviously, after you've watched the episode, go watch the third episode of The Last of Us if you haven't done that, because, hey, if you're having a tough time, and this, I mean, will probably resonate really strongly with queer people, if you happen to be LGBTQ+, if you happen to be trans, or you happen to be gay, or you happen to be bi, or you happen to be asexual, or intersex, or anything, and you're having a rough time right now, the majority of media, and the majority of stories, and the majority of news when it comes to queer people is usually trauma-based, is violence-based, is horrors and atrocities. It's people looking to marginalize you for the way you were born, which is fucked. So when you deal and have to see and experience a whole bunch of that, obviously it can get you down, because yeah, it's really fucked up to think sometimes that there are people, now almost an entire political party, that don't want you to exist. Like, this is the second most powerful political party in the United States. Sometimes it's the first, considering how many bodies of government they control at given times, saying openly and legislating that they don't want you to exist. That's fucked. That's really, really sad. That's got to take a toll on you. And so the majority of the shit that you read about or take in is usually stuff surrounding those negative stories. Even if you're watching me, you know, who I fucking love trans people, love gay people, love bi people, I love all people, you know? Even I am going to be covering stories that usually center around trauma, shitty, fucked up stuff, people being ghouls and evil and fucked. So it is so wonderful to have something come out and be the cultural zeitgeist, the thing that everyone's talking about, The Last of Us. It's like, it's the show. That episode is the episode. It's the same way everyone used to do the water cooler shit for Seinfeld. That big TV shows like Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad and Sopranos would captivate everyone and have everyone talking about. To have that center around a queer love story of like hope, beauty, it's really something positive and special and awesome and beautiful and wonderful. And they really, like, they go through a discussion of it. They talk about like so many aspects of it, that things obviously I didn't even think about, you know, partly sometimes being cis, you know, I don't pick up on things as quickly as I should, you know. I've got my sissy brain going on up there, you know, like, The Matrix, I was obsessed with The Matrix. I spent fucking hours on the forums online learning all the theories and also contributing to them and trying to crack every single aspect of that show and the mythology and all the sources and the Gnostic Bible and all that kind of stuff. And the trans stuff was like this. Didn't see a part of it. No, that did not even come close. I was not even in the ballpark. Not even within the same city as where the stadium would be. I was just, yeah, no, didn't cross my brain for a second. So yeah, sometimes it is nice having people, you know, teaching you things about the wonders and beauty of the world in every way. Old Lance is sus? Well, yeah, obviously.
Gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child.
Oh my God. Wow. So he's going for it. Same guy, by the way. Trump fucking used to be completely fine with women having abortions and then 180 on that just because it's what the party and the right wants. So no surprise that the same person who at one point was like, I am the biggest ally to the LBG that anyone's ever been, and you're just like, okay, Trump.
The left-wing gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth.
Clean up your room.
Jesus. No, yeah, so he's going for it. Like, he's full Matt Walsh here. Just fucking right on brand. Well, I mean, hey, you know how there's this, like, weird section of people online who are like, the two parties are identical. There is absolutely no discernible difference between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. Well, I mean, you've got the previous president here basically making a statement that I would say is pretty aggressive hate speech, ascientific nonsense, and vilifying trans people in the process, to the tune of shit that you usually hear out of the likes of extremists. Matt Walsh, libs of TikTok, that kind of shit. Yeah, that's your boy right up there doing that kind of stuff. And then, like, you might say that Joe Biden is performative in his, let's say, approach to these topics. But performative or not, he is saying that trans people are valid and should exist. And so that's pretty discernible difference between these two parties' approaches, the way they're doing it. Even if you want to say the entire thing from the bottom on up is all just talk, like Joe Biden's not gonna do anything. There's still a lot better outcomes to be had by powerful, in some cases the most powerful men on the planet, making statements that are trans people are valid and should exist, and the other guy saying the opposite of that. So yeah, it's even if it was 100% performative, it is better to have the president of the United States say out loud on television things like that, I mean, even the silly gaffe one where it's like, hey, Joe Biden, how many genders are there? There are at least 3. There's at least 3.
On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a...
So, you can't mince words about this anymore. This is the previous president of the United States, the previous most powerful man on the planet, and who is trying to now again become the president of the United States, using the rhetoric of what was being told by far-right extremists. Again, Matt Walsh's libs of TikTok, the same shit that is basically along the line of not wanting trans people to exist. They're drawing a line in the sand. They're not fucking being shy about this. They're not fucking choosing their words carefully. They're straight up screaming this now. This is just what they are about. This is who they are. They are telling you who they are. Listen to them. Believe them. This is what he is saying. And again, even if this person isn't going to become the president, even if Ron DeSantis has a higher shot or something else, or he's just under too much investigation, or the fucking NFT game has just soiled his once orange brand, no matter what the case, this is still the last president of the United States making this statement and being very, very frank and clear about the level of hatred and bigotry that he's trying to put forward, as is the party. And so again, it's like, you can't ignore this. You can't look away from it. It doesn't matter like who you are. If you are on the side of wanting to fight for the liberation of all people, if you are on the side of wanting to fight for queer people, LGBTQ plus people, if you want to, even if you aren't a part of that community, and if you are an ally who thinks the world is better when we have wondrous diversity and everyone is allowed to be who they are kind of shit, whatever the case, this is what the right is putting out. This is what the right is saying. This is what the right is fucking making one of their causes. And it's like, it's the time-honored tradition that has been used by fucking fascists over and over again. You vilify and otherize marginalized communities. You make people who are already in positions of power feel like they're the ones who are losing power and being marginalized. And that escapism and bigotry serves but one purpose, right?
Law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately.
So here's the good news. This shit is super unpopular. It's like, it doesn't play. There's some people who realize that after the midterms. You could see a couple of the pundits actually analyze this from the correct perspective. Right-wingers who knew and saw the writing on the wall. But from the other side, it was very, very clear. Making your crusade uniquely about trans people and just consistently going after trans people, marginalizing trans people, the vast majority of Americans do not hate trans people, and it's not they're like something they worry about or think about all the time. They're not sitting at home being like, oh, the trans agenda is coming for me, oh god, what if the woke mind virus infects my children? No, and like they care about a lot of the things that you would assume they cared about: the economy, inflation, healthcare, those kind of things. So as long as people are going to center and focus their party around oppression, as long as it's like, we're not going to sell you something that's inspirational. We're not going to sell you the idea, hey, are you having a very hard time? Do you feel that like life is getting more difficult for you and your peers? Yeah, I agree. It seems like there are systems in place that are oppressing us, that a lot of wealth is being concentrated into the hands of the very few on a regular basis. No, it's not that kind of stuff. It's not, hey, do you want free healthcare? Do you want free education for your children? Do you want housing? Do you want us to, as a society, band together and take care of these things so that we all live better? And if we all live better and are healthier, we are more productive. If we are more productive, society will function better. We're all going to be great. If we're all sick, if everyone gets COVID, this whole system kind of sucks. You realize that, and then everything kind of falls apart. It's better if we all have healthcare and are taken care of. We have the money. We can do this. You Americans especially, you spend more on your healthcare than the rest of the other countries, and yet you get worse results. That kind of fucking sucks, doesn't it? On a regular basis? Like, to look at that by the numbers, it's like, well, where does all the money go? Well, it's a handful of insurance companies do profit handsomely, as do the shareholders in those insurance companies and the heads of the insurance companies and the CEOs. And they do also a lot of stock buyback as they make more money, so as the profits become infinitely more profitable, they get to have a larger portion of control over their own companies. So it's pretty wild, just printing that cash.
Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children.
Hey, what up,
the
Jeff?
Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones.
Who's the Big Pharma?
Blockers, which are in no way licensed or approved for this use.
All lies, by the way, across the board. Like, you can say whatever you want. That's the thing, right? You just say whatever you want out loud, and then it's like, oh well, that has to be true. Again, they're going for it. This is just full on in, this is just 100%. But like, again, none of it's based in facts or science. No one had a problem when cis kids were getting puberty blockers. Didn't see a whole cause and outcry being like, well, these are untested chemical castration pills. I don't want these cis kids to. Nope. Didn't see anything about that. Haven't seen anything in terms of right-wing outrage at, say, I don't know, other forms of gender-affirming care, like breast implants for teenagers. Because I don't know if you knew this, but teenage girls who want to get breast implants in certain states that are now outlawing operations, if trans people want to get it, such as surgeries to their breasts, if trans people want to get those kind of surgeries, that act is being banned. However, if you're a teenager and you want to get breast implants, that's totally fine. That's fair and or valid and good. And so we're going to allow this one, but ban that one. And it's like, so it's not the medical procedures that's concerning to you, or people changing the way their bodies look. That's and kids doing that. You don't care about that because you've made that abundantly clear. Because again, there's two examples of the exact same thing happening. Just in one case, you're like, that one's good and that one's bad. What's the difference between the two things? because again, they're
My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Parts of this I'm taking incredibly seriously, and I'm just, you know, we have to again take a very strong stance that this is a war and a fight, and I am going to be on the side of fighting on the behalf of liberating queer people. That's all true. On the other end, it's okay to laugh at the fash, because it's sometimes just ridiculous how fucking comical the fash can be, and in this case, like, is this happening? Is this like your greatest fear? Like, so many of the fears are made up. They're phantom fears. They're ghosts. It's like, do you think teachers walk up to kids and just stare them in the eyes the whole time? Like, you are in the wrong body. It's like, wait, what does that mean? You are not he, him. You are now they, them. I am they, them. Yes, indoctrination hath begun. And then all the kids rise up and they're like, we are now trans. And they're like, the agenda has begun. Like, the wokening. Behold the great wokening. Like, what are you talking about? It's not real. It's not. So, you know what happens is that kids, in the majority of cases, kids have to convince their parents because their parents disagree with them. Kids have to go, mommy, daddy, this is something that doesn't feel right, blah, blah, blah. And the parents will be like, oh, you're a tomboy. Oh, you're maybe gay. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But the problem persists and persists and persists until they finally get some information on this, and they finally visit a medical professional, and through much talk, consultation, and obviously sessions with medical professionals, they determine that the child happens to be trans, and they start doing things like affirming that. And that's it at that stage. The area of concern for all the bigots, the far-right fascies, the Matt Walshes, the libs, the TikToks, the Joe Rogans, the Tim Pools, the Lauren Southerns, the Steven Crowders, the age range that they're all so hyper concerned about. You are not getting surgery. You are not taking hormones. You are not nothing. You are getting different hairstyles, maybe different names. You may go by different pronoun, but that's it. Like, you begin to affirm their gender in that way because they haven't gone through puberty, so they don't need puberty blockers yet or stuff like that. That's something that will come way down the road if, again, multiple consultations with a medical professional determine that would be the best course of outcome in terms of the cost-benefit analysis to that child, in the same way they would for any other form of healthcare. This is one specific form of healthcare that all of you can't wrap your fucking fragile little minds around. And it's just breaking brains across the board. All these people just losing their minds, just for the first time maybe in their lives, deciding they want to be involved in the direct healthcare of fucking strangers' kids. That's a really weird thing to have happen, or to fucking be involved in strangers' kids' fucking gym experiences. You can't play on this team unless I see your genitals. I need to see if you have a cock. If I don't see a cock, how do I know? You could have an unfair advantage against other people because of a cock. The cock will give you powers beyond belief. I should know. Like, what the fuck is this all about, all of you? You wouldn't do this for anything else. Like, do you realize how gross and weird it would be if you were doing a crusade against child cancer? If you were like, apparently they're giving them chemotherapy. They're like actually poisoning their bodies. They're putting poison into these children's bodies, and then they're radiating kids. And then they're cutting them open. They're opening them up, and they're taking parts of their body and mutilating them. They're taking tumors out of their bodies. They're mutilating them and taking the tumors out. I can't believe it. It's disgusting. I can't. Fuck. We have to stop them. Stop these animals quickly. Call the hospitals. Call the bomb threats. Call the teachers who convinced these kids to have cancer. All these kids have been convinced that they have cancer by the big woke agenda that's giving them all cancer now, and it's convincing them. Did you realize how fucking ridiculous that would be? That doesn't make any sense. Like, it absolutely, like, people would look at you with their jaws open because you're coming across as some deranged pervert. I'm sorry, but that's what you sound like right now. It doesn't make any sense. It's just like a non-stop spile of unscientific information. just pouring out of your mouth. And again, very easy cursory Google search will reveal that the overwhelming majority of the scientific community, in fact, every major scientific body association in the United States, every medical major association agrees on this. It's like they all agree. There's like this. It's not still just because you haven't figured this out. Like I guess people are still scared about vaccines. Maybe that shouldn't surprise me. But it's just like there's so many things. Like I keep going back to this. When it comes to medicine, are you stuck in the medieval ages? Do you think we should have leeches applied to people to draw their blood to get the evil toxins out of their body, or the fucking spirits and embers that occupy them? It's just so infinitely fucked and endlessly fucked. Infinitely and endlessly fucked. Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form, available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Juste, we shall spend many a generations building mighty cathedrals in your honor. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your oafish jesters, here to offer you a laugh at any opportunity. To our brave knights of the Round Table, Rachel K., Izzy Solidarity, Victoria Bell, Sebastian Demel, Mark Harmon, Benji Arnie, Scary Earth Human, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood, Everything Important, Hegbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Doug Cady, Daniel Sutton, Jenna Tao, Dark Puppy, Quiet One 85, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, Multimondi, Trevbot EXE, Brian Ephraim, Anthropophojack, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Nkosin, Ralph Parler, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Todd Buckingham, and Todd La Jeunesse. We salute our valiant heroes off to fight injustice everywhere.